Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has announced a 12-month delay to a sugar tax hike, which was meant to go into effect actually on Friday. The South African Canegrowers Association has welcomed the decision, calling the scrapping of the tax altogether, or rather calling for the scrapping of the tax altogether, saying that it has cost South Africa more than 16,000 jobs. For more on that, we're joined now by the Healthy Living Alliance Programs Manager, Lawrence Mbalati. Lawrence, good to have you with us tonight here on In Focus. Of course, you have been calling for the tax to be increased to as close to 20%. In fact, at the time you were saying this would help us fund the COVID-19 vaccines, among other issues, of course, that you have been raising before Parliament, also around the healthy living challenges that are brought on by sugar in all sorts of our processed foods. How do you receive the news? It looks like the minister has succumbed to the pressure of industry and has decided to delay this for at least 12 months?
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers. This is an absolute shocking information that has come across to us. We basically saw this through the newspapers. We don't know if the minister has consulted with civil society to get their view on this. We believe it will be a big mistake if we're going to suspend health intervention at the expense of few business interests. And I think the South African government, if being a responsible government, will have to actually look at how far can they go to accommodate being lobbied by business. And I think we feel the rhetoric of government, for example, with COVID and the mortality rates and people who were passing on due to sugar and non-communicable diseases related to this health promotion levy. We saw that we're not prepared, and I think other pandemics, when they come in future, they will find us in worse state. So I think we are in a dire need to show responsiveness and agency and commitment as government to respond to this pandemic of non-communicable diseases that we can prevent through multiple interventions such as the health promotion levy. So we are outraged and really disappointed if the minister has really taken that route, and will reach out to the minister to get his view and rationale and where these decisions were taken.
Yeah. I mean, the industry is saying, as far as the question of why the tax is concerned, they're saying there's been no concrete evidence given to them that the tax actually helps, for example, to reduce obesity since it was introduced in 2018. What is your finding?
I think that's part of the biggest problem because the industry is actually coming as they are health experts. Already we know there are green shoots and evidence that have shown South Africans to be curbing the overconsumption of sugar. So we know diseases like obesity and stunting are generational. So we're not going to be able to measure the impact of health promotion levy and other health intervention in a short term. This will require a long-term studies and evaluations, like your 5 to 10 years or more. Because these are generational and intergenerational kind of epidemics in society. So we know that there are studies that were done and evidence, empirical data is there for everyone in public, where it's showing the impact of this tax in terms of people reducing the overconsumption of sugar.
Yeah. You have the health concern while others have the economic concern, right? Others are saying the increase would have exacerbated, for example, the industry already faced with high costs of imports, having to raise their costs of doing business. And in particular, if you're looking at other issues that are already expensive, diesel is already expensive, fertilizer is already expensive, and so on and so forth. When you increase this tax, overall it will just increase the cost of a range of products becoming unaffordable in the long term.
I think that's one of the biggest problems, because as people we are pitted against choosing jobs and health, and I think we need both. And as Healthy Living Alliance, we have gone on record to support government supporting the small-scale farmers in particular, to go through the just transition, because it's no longer sustainable that the industry will expect to feed people with, excessive sugar in the country with such big pandemics of diabetes, of obesity, of heart diseases. We need to urgently move into that just transition where the industry is diversifying the use of sugar, to ethanol and other innovative measure, biofuel. As actually we have seen a spike and a huge demand. We understand these things aren't easy as said and require investment. And we have gone on record that we're not wanting the industry to shut down. But I mean, our people's health should not be a choice of a health or a job, because I think even those jobs that we're talking about, we know there are appalling conditions in some of the farms where these sugarcane plantations are happening. But overall, as people, I don't think we need to be put in a position by the industry where we have to choose a job and our health. We need both, and we need an urgent just transition. And we as Healthy Living, we stay on record that we're not going to sustain feeding people on sugar as a way of sustaining the sugar industry. The other challenges that the industry is experiencing, cheap imports, low demands, and all other, costs that are actually associated with the production and the profit. These are the things that they have known for years: droughts, for many years, cheap import from Eswatini. Yeah. It's a competitive market, so we need to really move. And the industry it doesn't need to be even told by us. It's no longer sustainable in this country to rely on overproduction of sugar for diet in this country, because it's becoming a huge problem in leading to a non-communicable disease that are diet related.
So as the Healthy Living Alliance, would you welcome public hearings on the impact of the sugar tax on jobs? When you talk jobs, you're talking directly to the people, and people will certainly be concerned around the focus on job losses. Would you welcome a sit around the table convening public hearings similar to those that we have seen, for example, around the question of land on this particular matter?
We'll certainly welcome that. And I think we have been on record supporting initiative by government, to diversify for a just transition in the sector. So we'll really welcome that, and I think we'll be able to make input as well in terms of how as society can we actually diversify and go through a much needed and long overdue just transition in the sugarcane and the sugar industry to actually make sure that we can have sustainable jobs that actually are not making even people sick. So I think it's a very important conversation, and I think it's long overdue that we can start having those conversations. But I think our biggest problem is suspending health intervention when one sector or the other, because also this industry, tobacco is the same, alcohol is the same. They have always gone on record. If there is any form of regulation of self-reported job losses, I think it's difficult to separate that this tax alone on its own is resulting on job losses. If you look at other, challenges that the industry is raising, how do you then separate one intervention that is actually aiming at protecting people's health into the others of cheap imports, of high labor costs, of fuel production and the use of diesel, like they are saying? How do you then separate each and one of them and say this particular thing is the one and the only thing that is resulting in? So I think government is caught napping because it's actually just like listening at one-sided story and the motivation that is brought by the industry that we understand could be impacted, but I think from our side it's difficult to, and the industry hasn't shown empirical data that shows that this is only, as these job losses is only as a result